Do you want to know how amazing people connect? Well, you're in the right place. Do you want to know how amazing people Do you want to know how amazing people connect? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to Marketing with Russ, aka #RussSelfie.
Good afternoon. We seem to be having some technical problems, but whatever. It's a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Marketing with Russ. Even though it's not Russ, it's Alan Hennessy here. How are you today? I am the guest host for today on the Marketing with Russ podcast, videocast, whatever you want to call this. This is what it is. And we are delighted to have your company. And today I'm going to be speaking with Wendy Glavin. We shall find out more. I'll get the right pronunciation of that coming up soon. But just a little bit about me. I'm Alan Hennessy from Compass Media, social media and digital marketing. I am based here in Dublin, in Ireland, and we are delighted. I'm delighted to be the guest host here for Russ today, who is having a little bit of a time off, well deserved as well. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest on, and that is the wonderful Wendy. So Wendy, how are you today? Great to see you.
Wait, can you see me?
I can see you. We can see you. You're in full glory, and we are live across social media.
So speaking of technical difficulties, I can't, all I'm doing is looking at my screen.
Okay, well, we have, there's the two of us here on screen. So Wendy, how are you?
So I'm good. I'm great. Happy Memorial Day to everyone. Wherever you are, where it's cold and rainy. Hopefully you guys, other people are having, sunny, nice weather. But I think it's been nice to have a long weekend. So I want to get on because it's awkward just talking to my computer screen.
Okay. So we'll try and get that sorted. So if you want to log on, and you can even log on to Facebook, or you can see us there, or if you switch your screen view.
Oh, there, got it.
There we are. Hello.
Hi.
Hey. It's a pleasure to have your company, and I'm thrilled and excited to chat with you today as well. It's Glavin. Am I right in saying this?
So I'm saying we're going to blame my ex-husband. Jim Glavin.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Now we have that sorted out.
What's good is that you, Alan, I'm sorry, is that he's Irish, which I'm not. I'm not Irish. So
well, I should have no excuse then, otherwise, should I? So I suppose, Wendy, before we get stuck in and we start chatting about marketing and connecting and, and the power of what it can do for people in business and also for just in a general interaction and marketing, maybe you might tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Okay, I'm going to start with why there are picture hooks on the wall. So I moved out of New York City after 30 years on April 30th. What is that, 1 month ago? No, about a month ago. So I'm kind of in the midst of unpacking boxes, so that's why you see the next time we do this, you'll see beautiful pictures hanging up.
Super.
So you want just my quick elevator pitch?
Yeah. Well, let's.
Okay.
Tell us all about yourself.
Okay. 30-year marketing communications veteran. Thanks, Russ. Full service agency owner, published writer, technology columnist, and global speaker. So the core of what I do is marketing, executive writing, social and digital media advisory. And I also started public relations, of course. And I also started a new service called Decode Your Value during the pandemic, because I wanted to help people realize that you're not defined by the work you do, the work you did, your income, your status, your age, your gender. You're defined by your life skills. So I've been writing a lot about that since I think I started the process during last June. And I've been writing and speaking about it because people often think of themselves, let's say you've lost your job and you define yourself by your job or all the other self-limiting beliefs. It doesn't help you to move forward. But the process that I created called Decode Your Value has a life skills tree for people to download. It's free to create their own digital tree. I have my digital tree as an example for people to use. I decoded my value, and basically it just goes through if you look at your background, I say instead of looking forward, look back. So look at your background, your experiences, your relationships, your interests, and then you'll find your true brand potential. So I love to give this one example, and I'm sorry, it is my son or one of my sons. I have 3 sons, 29, 27, 22. So my 27-year-old last year was furloughed, and he thought, not because of Decode Your Value, maybe he heard me talking about it, but he thought to himself, I was an English major at Tufts, and he always loved writing. So he self-published a book and said to me, Mom, my dream is to sell 280 copies to make my money back. And because of my background, together we did, Zoom book launch, Facebook book launch, and got him in the New York Post. It's about growing up in Manhattan private schools, but not a Gossip Girl thing, more literary and more, I don't know, to a certain degree sad, because it talks about important topics like racism and sexism and just a lot of different things. So that was his first book. He has sold more than 1,000 copies. It's called The Venerable Vincent Beatty. And he just is completed a second book that'll be coming out in July about the Hamptons, which is where we are. We're in Southampton, which is completely a coincidence. So I think that is a very good example. And I'm not just giving it because it's my son. I'm giving it because here is somebody who was 26 years old, didn't have any, was furloughed, had, tons of time, and thought back about love writing, English major, and wrote a book and sold 1,000 copies at 26 years old. So, and that's a no-name person. I mean, he's a name, Will Glavin is his name. So that's what Decode Your Value is what I'm trying to help people to do. So.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. I think that's because a lot of people do that. They sort of, and especially I suppose through the pandemic, they sort of went, oh God, they stand back and they're going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? It's only, as you say, is when you look back at your experience and look back at what you can bring to any table and to any organization, or even as a entrepreneur and a solo entrepreneur, or as your son done, writing a passion. You see the value in what it is that you do, and then when you see that value in what you've done and the experience that you have, that it's just a case of, I suppose, reigniting that fire and reigniting that passion. And I think that's incredible. I love the whole idea of decoding your value, because I don't think enough people do that. I think they just sort of scramble and they start trying to figure out as to what it is they can do next, as opposed to looking back and saying, well, what really have I achieved, or what is it that I'm really good at?
I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean, I never think in terms of reinvention. I think in terms of building on your strengths. So, and the importance of looking back is, I'm going to give you one example. My first job out of college was working in house at General Electric. I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be a lawyer. And my professor said I was too dramatic. My prosecutor dad said, you can't win your case till you see the other side. You're more of an advocate. So that's what I became. But working in-house at GE, I was surrounded by engineers and, technologists, scientists, that sort of thing. And over the years, I worked for, large global agencies, medium-sized agencies, and I kept being given technology accounts. But the interesting thing is, I didn't make the connection about, wait a second, when I was first out of college, being surrounded by all these technical people, I learned about reading and understanding complex technology terms. So now, I work with clients in fintech and artificial intelligence and blockchain. I mean, that's like that's a straight line to from the beginning and like where I am now. Yeah. I mean, in a specific area, in one area.
And I suppose, when we're talking, you're talking about fintech, you're talking about the tech end of it as well. But I'd like to speak, and I know like marketing with Russ, we talk about how we can market ourselves. But I think the key elements of marketing is I suppose is showing up and understanding and letting people know what you do. And I suppose in that respect, it's about connections and building them connections and spreading the net. So I think that's so important. What are your feelings on this?
I completely agree with you. I mean, I lived in New York City for 30 years. Obviously, I'm not 30 years old. So prior to that, I lived in Philadelphia. You're not supposed to laugh. You're supposed to say.
I'm not laughing. I'm just thinking, neither am I.
So I think
feel that age comes with experience, and experience comes with age. That's why I've always said.
Yes, you're right. So I think that your whole point, Alan, about connections is so important. It's always been important, but I'm saying, particularly during the pandemic, as you're saying, show up. And what I do, I'm outgoing. So obviously I'm going to be talking, but for people who are not, like, don't just be an active participant, even ask a question or something, because it helps you learn more. So I think the amount of people that I've met all over the world because of these types of shows, people being on shows, people connecting with each other, is probably more so than in any other previous years. And what I think is also really good is, at least what I believe, the pandemic, has affected us all in a lot of negative ways, major, losses. But the thing is, people have become more personal. So I'm thinking in the past, when I went to live events, it's always about dressing up and, that kind of thing, and being more businessy, like, hey, I'm Wendy Glavin, founder and CEO of Wendy Glavin Agency. And I think during the pandemic, I'll say my merged my professional and personal personas. So now what you're seeing is the total of me.
Yeah. So
I think that's maybe another thing that people should keep in mind. It's okay if if you are working remotely, if you're in a situation like this with, not a completed, room. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's what you just said, Alan, just, show up. And I think people still are fearful of going live. But I want to tell everyone, with the experiences that I've had, it's like you're talking to a friend. I mean, like we're doing now. It's not like a formal, it's actually, to me, much better in this way than it had been previously. Also, we have more time. And so connections, I just think I do think also it needs to be it needs to be two-way. I do get a lot of emails and, cold calls, which I don't like. And particularly what I think is important is when people connect, when you want to connect with somebody, do a little bit of research on them. Like, don't write to me and say, hey, would you, could we help you create a website? All that does is I end up just deleting. I mean, take the time to do research on the person that you want to meet. And it's interesting. You can find all different ways of connecting. I remember connecting with different people because of, I don't want to say sports because I'm not that knowledgeable, but I do know because of my three sons, about football, basketball, baseball. I learned more during the pandemic watching the NCAA, all that stuff. So I'm saying that's even even a personal interest is a way that you can connect. Even, for in the beginning, prior to this, our show, your show, Alan, we spoke about the fact that Alan lives in Ireland, and I spoke about the fact, I visited Ireland. It was really beautiful. So I think that's what's really makes things like much more relaxed. And I think it's freeing that we don't have to hide ourselves, just be who we are.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. I think, to your point, what you're saying there about, getting to know the people as well. And I think that's what we do. I suppose for so many years, we've always been, this is my business head and this is my personal head. Whereas I think we have evolved, and especially over the last year or so, is that that's gone out the window, because there is, like, I've been on calls, Zoom calls, with people sitting in kitchens, and there's kids running around and and you get that, but I think what's happened is it's made us more conscious of, like, this is life, this is how things are, and this is how things are going to be for the foreseeable future, until such time as they start to move back. But I think what we've done is we've huge learning curve is that we've actually all learned that, it's okay not to be perfect, and it's okay to have, that whatever's going on. But I think at the end of the day, your quality of your work will always shine through. But I do believe, and I totally agree with you, is build that connection and get that person to know, or get that company or that people that you're trying to attract to know you. Once they know you, as you say, they'll like you, and then when they like you, they're going to trust you.
And the thing is, and if they don't like you, it's okay. I mean, not everyone is going to like us.
Yeah.
So, I think what's really important is to be honest with people about who you are, about, if they're asking for services or help or whatever it is, to be really honest about, what you do and what you don't do, and also have a way in which you work. For example, with public relations, in all cases, I'm honest, but I'm saying I don't tell clients what they want to hear, which is like, oh, sure, you'll be in TechCrunch. I will say, I'm just using that because that's a specific example. It's like, oh, well, I was in TechCrunch. And I said, when? And he said, 5 years ago. I said, well, 5 years ago is not today. So today you're not going to be in TechCrunch at the moment because of blah, 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 blah. So I think it's also important, be aware. I'm not saying you, Alan, I'm just saying for people, be aware that we're living in a pandemic. So, be empathetic, be honest, be caring. I'm saying I cannot believe that the way that people sometimes behave as if we're not even in a pandemic. I mean, we have to understand the fact people have lost their jobs. People are down, depressed, there's a lot of, mental health issues. So, basically, I mean, it's certainly not what I say, but I believe, just be kind.
Yeah.
And I would say also, which the people who are salespeople aren't going to like this, but stop selling. There's a famous quote. I don't have the person in my head, but it's called, instead of selling, start helping. It might be Gary Vaynerchuk, but stop selling. I mean, it's just, and I don't like the bait and switch where, like, oh, read about you or da 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 da, and then it's like in for the I don't want to say kill, but in for the, you know what I mean? It's like don't do bait and switch.
Yeah, and
now what I do, people call, oh, hi, this is da da da. I'm like, this is what I say. Where are you calling from? Why are you calling? And I mean, it's sort of rude, but I mean, we all have limited time. I say, okay, I'm not interested. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, because you can waste so much time on a phone when you actually I think it's like, I'm a firm believer in is if I'm going to talk to anyone, I'll always reach out and connect with them. Whether that be on social media or whether it be through email or whatever shape or form it is. But what I will do is I will actually then say, okay, here's what I do. How can I help you? Or is there something that we can pull together that we can actually do that's going to help us? And that in that way, there's a mutual understanding, but I know a bit more of a backstory about the person, and they know a bit more about me. And in that respect, it means now that we can sort of move it to the next, and we have some common ground. And I think that's so important as well. I just see G. Scott Smith has just said, yes, do some research. Automation is fine, but don't try to make it personal, because it's not. My favorite, hello D. I'm always interested to add more motivational listeners to my network. Yeah. And it goes, and it's exactly what he says there, you know. Um, I was gonna ask you, what would be, I suppose, your key marketing tips for businesses out there that are trying to get ahead? I know we spoke about connections, and I understand that's one, but would you have any others that you would suggest that people try and implement into their marketing?
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost, make your message branding. Sorry, happy Memorial Day, somebody. Make your brand consistent across all channels. I'm going to explain that. So first of all, people might say, do we need a website? Yes, you need a website. The question is, why do you need a website? Because any editor or journalist or anybody, they're going to look you up. So everything needs to be consistent, from your website to, depending on whatever you do. I mean, it covers a lot. Website, social media profiles, Twitter, LinkedIn, a bit different than Facebook and Instagram and other social media platforms, but, have consistent brand messaging. So this is not a sales pitch, but like if you go to Wendy Glavin Agency, my banners, for example, the banner on Facebook, the banner on Twitter, the banner on LinkedIn. I mean, everything's the same colors, because you want to have people to have a consistent, experience. The other thing is, which of course does not applicable because we're talking, but don't make websites so text heavy. Like people spend less than 40 seconds so make the first page powerful and not text heavy, not filled with jargon, not business accolades. Like if people are going to recommend you or, get it from other people, not yourself. It's like I gave you the caveat about my son, where, doesn't have as much credibility as the New York Post does in that case. So I'm saying, make sure that your brand is consistent. Number one, colors, words, purpose, mission, and please stop selling. And I really do mean that, because, again, I don't have it in front of me because, we're in this, we're whatever, we're just kind of, we threw this together, but it's important to make sure that, you have a specific brand message that is different per channel. So on Twitter, that's sort of more serious. The other thing is interact with people. So comment on other people's posts. Don't just be on Twitter reading people's things, or I see a lot where people are just selling services. You need to build communities on all the different social media sites. Facebook, I'll say Facebook and Instagram for me are more the personal side of me, in the sense of, my 3 boys and college graduation and, all that kind of stuff, which I have decided, not as a business strategy, but, posted all these photos from graduation. I guess it was about a week ago, and my birthday too, all over the place. I mean, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, etc. So I'm not suggesting that people do that. I'm just saying that, think in other words, I feel comfortable now showing the personal side of me. If you don't, it's okay. But so make sure that your branding is consistent, and also think in terms of where you are as a company. So either if you're a startup, there's certain things that you need to do. Startups, if you're trying to raise money, okay, startups need a white paper, startups need a pitch deck. So it depends on what stage of the journey you're in. And I would also say it's important, or I have found it to be important, to have a business advisor or coach. My business advisor, coach, dear friend is Deidre Breckenridge. And it's tremendously helpful to have an objective perspective about what it is that you're doing. And also how you're perceived may not be what you think about yourself. Perception is the key to reality. So, for example, I was on a podcast and I thought it was going to be edited. This was maybe, I don't know, 4 months ago. And I listened to it and I'm like, oh my God, I sound so bossy and like directing people and you can't do this and you can't do that. So I took the thing out to my son and I said, I had him listen to the beginning of it. I said, do I sound like this? Am I like this bossy? And he was just so nonchalant. He goes, yeah, I mean, of course, like always. But, I think it could go a little bit too far, which I think I did on that podcast, which is like, you can't do, you don't do advertising, don't do this, don't do that. But, I think take the time to realize that, we can all, be able to be ourselves to whatever degree you feel comfortable. But, first and foremost, be caring.
Yeah, I think that there's such fantastic points. I think that, being consistent and, as you say, not being tech heavy, talk to people in the language that, if you're attracting a particular audience, talk to them the way you would talk to them on the phone or talk to them in person. You know what I mean? Like I always say it, I've seen so many websites like that, and it just has so much jargon on it that you go, I couldn't be bothered, and you're gone and you've lost that customer. So, keep it simple and keep it smart. That's always been my thing. And as you say, is the consistency across all your social, and be real and show up as we do,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So another point would be, I mean, I'm trying to consider all different audience sectors. If you're shy, if you're an introvert, perhaps you don't want to go on Zoom, or you don't want to, Zoom, whatever it is, or a podcast. But I'd say in whatever way you're comfortable. I don't want to make general statements, but, like I go on podcasts, live shows, meaning I do participate on Twitter. I am in communities. I do two-way. I do writing. So, I wear different hats, which everybody does. So I'm saying, if you're not comfortable doing one thing, then do something else that you're comfortable with. Like I will not make cold calls. That's something I don't do. I have a friend who's a colleague who's very successful at doing that, but I don't, that's just not something I do. So I'm not going to change into doing something that someone else is doing because they have success. I have to be able to be true to myself, and that's for everybody else. Be true to yourself. Whatever you feel is the best way, then that's what's right for you. But like you said, Alan, the important thing is show up somewhere, but actively.
And I think that's the key to it here. I could sit here, Wendy, and talk with you all day about this, but I'll be given out to by the Lord and Master himself if I try and go over his time. Wendy, how can people reach out and connect with you if they want to get in contact?
Okay, so I'm going to spell it because of my ex-husband's. So it's Wendy, Wendy, Glavin is G-L, L as in love, A as in apple, V as in Victor, I as in ice cream, N as in Nancy, Wendy at wendyglavin.com, Wendy Glavin Agency, Wendy Glavin on LinkedIn, Wendy Glavin on Twitter, and and Instagram is Wendy Glavin New York City, NYC, which I need to change, obviously. I'm not in NYC. I'll do Wendy Glavin Agency, maybe out east.
Yeah.
But I do have a Facebook business account, Wendy Glavin Agency, but it's just turned into me really posting much more and interacting on my personal Facebook. So now comes the big secret. So that has my maiden name. So my personal Facebook account is Wendy Zucker, Zucker Glavin. Wendy Zucker Glavin. And when people say, well, why didn't you use my son said, no, what happened? My son said, are you going to use your maiden name? I said, I don't know, maybe I should use my maiden name when we got divorced. And they said, Mom, you can't, it's too Jewish, which I am Jewish. I'm kind of a Jew in disguise. Blonde hair, blue eyes, Glavin.
Beautiful. It has been an absolute pleasure to sit and talk with you today.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.
It's been really, really great. So thank you, and we wish you continued success. And I'm delighted to have been able to sit and chat with you today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much to Russ. Thanks, Russ.
And Russ will be back. So great stuff. Thanks, Wendy. I should talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. So there you go. The wonderful Wendy's sitting talking to us today. Hopefully you enjoyed this marketing with Russ. Or should I say it's marketing with Russ, aka Alan. Yes. So guys, thanks so much for joining us today. And Russ will be back next week with another fantastic podcast, videocast, whatever you want to call this. But make sure you tune in here to Russ Hedge. Okay, if you want more details about Russ and all the great stuff that he does, visit russhedge.com for more details. I'll see you all soon. As I always say, be social. I'm going to leave you with this, and hopefully the credits will roll. We're having a bit of technical problems, so if they don't, well.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Marketing with Russ, aka #RussSelfie. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app.
No, unfortunately, that's not going to work. So what we will do is we'll pop it in when we put this up live on the other social networks. So until next time, for myself, Alan Hennessy, be social and stay safe. Until then, bye-bye.